Good morning. My name is Jane Rago, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Savannah on this first morning in February. Working to build a diverse, multicultural, and beloved community, we celebrate the presence of and participation of the LGBTQI and straight people of all races, genders, abilities, and ethnic and national origins. We welcome you on YouTube and on site, whoever you know yourself to be and wherever you are on your journey. If you're visiting with us today and you'd like to introduce yourself, please rise or raise your hand and Tom will bring you a microphone. If you are joining us on YouTube, go ahead and use the chat to say hello. Are there any visitors on this side?
Hello, I'm Carrie Traylor. I'm from the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of San Dieguito, which is North County, San Diego. I'm here visiting, but also thinking about moving here to Savannah. I'm going through some life changes, lost my mother this year, my dad is dying, and I'm going through separation. So it's lovely to be here with you all.
All right, Stephanie Dykstra, and this is my daughter, Jane. We moved here from Michigan recently, and so this is our first time visiting. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. Are there any visitors on this side? Okay.
Hi, my name is Erin, and I am a recovering childhood Catholic and recovering Lutheran pastor. And I have been here before. I'm a snowbird from Minnesota, and we were here several years ago, and I was joined you while I was here. The winter COVID started, and I enjoyed your services and your music very much, and I'm happy to be back. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Doug Stansel. We're from Racine, Wisconsin, home of Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church, which is noted for having the first female minister in the country, I believe. So.
Welcome.
I'm Diane Shire, and my husband Tim. We're from the Seattle area, where I go to Saltwater UU Church.
Welcome.
Hello, I'm Tom Morini. I'm visiting my mom, Jackie, here in Savannah. I'm from upstate New York, and I'm very happy to be here with you all. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning, my name's Evan. I'm from Savannah, but I'm new here, and I'm here with my daughter, Lydia.
Hi. Okay, and joining us on YouTube, we have, hello, we are Michael and Summer Granado. We're planning to visit in person soon and happy to be here. We're happy to have you here, all of you. Welcome. Please join us in the social hall after the service for refreshments and coffee. And so you can go through this door, that door, follow the crowd, or ask Tom, the usher. There are 2 cards in the pew in the pew back in front of you that helps us gather information for the good of our community. The rainbow chalice. You can use the rainbow chalice, either the QR code or the space provided to write your contact information, and that way you can sign up for our newsletter and receive a welcome letter from our Reverend Lisa, our minister. And for YouTubers, I'll put that information in the chat. And to share a joy or a sorrow, please use the card with the red heart and chalice. And we will read them aloud in the service later on if you indicate that you would wish to do so. So if you fill out either of these cards, please put it in the collection plate a little later this morning. Church announcements are emailed to members and friends on Tuesdays and Fridays. So check your email for more complete details about the following, but we have a lot going on right now. So this is a quote from NBC News. Quote, Georgia's oldest city made a historic break with its slavery-era past as Savannah's City Council voted to rename a downtown square in honor of a Black woman who taught formerly enslaved people to read and write. Please join us in the official renaming ceremony, which is this Saturday, February 10th, at 11 a.m., as we rename our square in honor of Susie King Taylor. And this is the square that's on Abercorn between East Taylor and Gordon. Also, on February 10th, our Moonlit Mardi Gras auction will be held. So come for festivities that start at 6 p.m. in Ron Hall. There will be king cake, and the auction will begin at 7:30 in the sanctuary. And a big thank you to all who donated. The last in-person group meeting to discuss whether to call Reverend Lisa will be on February 5th at 10 a.m. Please sign up if you have not done so already. And if you have not made it to an in-person meeting, there is an online questionnaire that you can find in our newsletter, and that is due on February 15th. On February 18th, our Music Alliance is welcoming Willie Jackson and the Tybee Blues in our first ever blues concert here at UUCS. Tickets are $25 on Eventbrite. And finally, the Strengthening Families program starts for us on February 20th and runs through May 21st. This is an alternative to incarceration and a hands-on way to serve our community. Please see the sign-up sheet in Ron Hall or contact Brett Highland for more information. With the lighting of our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, we enter into sacred time. Our chalice lighter this morning is Nicole Flournori Ray. And our reading is from The Struggle for Freedom by the Reverend Paul Sprecher. We light this chalice in memory of the courage of those who have struggled for freedom, the persistence of those who have struggled for justice.
The place where we meet to seek the highest is holy ground, for indeed our meeting and our seeking make it holy. Will you please rise now in spirit or in body for our opening hymn, verses 1 through 3 of number 298, Wake Now My Senses. Time now for our story. Anyone who would like to see the pictures may come forward. Our story this morning is called The Last Stop on Market Street. CJ pushed through the church doors, skipped down the steps. The outside air smelled like freedom, but it also smelled like rain, which freckled CJ's shirt and dripped down his nose. He ducked under his Nana's umbrella, saying, "How come we gotta wait for the bus in all this wet?" "Trees get thirsty too," his Nana said. "Don't you see that big one drinking through a straw?" CJ looked for a long time, but never saw a straw. From the bus stop, he watched water pool on flower petals, watched rain gather against the windshield of a nearby car. His friend Colby climbed in, gave CJ a wave, and drove off with his dad. "Nana, how come we don't got a car?" "Boy, what do we need a car for? We got a bus that breathes fire and old Mr. Dennis, who always has a trick for you." The bus creaked to a stop in front of them. It sighed and sagged, and the doors swung open. "What's that I see?" Mr. Dennis asked. He pulled a coin from behind CJ's ear, placed it in his palm. Nana laughed her deep laugh and pushed CJ along. They sat right up front. The man across the way was tuning a guitar. An old woman with curlers had butterflies in a jar. Nana gave everyone a great big smile and a good afternoon. She made sure CJ did the same. The bus lurched forward and stopped, lurched forward and stopped. Nana hummed as she knit. "How come we always got to go here after church?" CJ said. "Miguel and Colby never have to go nowhere." "I feel sorry for those boys," she told him. "They'll never get a chance to meet Bobo or the sunglass man. And I hear Trixie got herself a brand new hat." CJ stared out the window, feeling sorry for himself. He watched cars zip by on either side, watched a group of boys hop curbs on bikes. A man climbed aboard with a spotted dog. CJ gave up his seat. "How come that man can't see?" "Boy, what do you know about seeing?" Nana told him. "Some people watch the world with their ears." "That's a fact. Their noses, too," the man said, sniffing at the air. "That's a mighty fine perfume you're wearing today, ma'am." Nana squeezed the man's hand and laughed her deep laugh. Two boys got on next. CJ watched as they moved on by and stood in the back. "Sure wish I had earphones," he said. Nana set down her knitting. "What for? You got the real live thing sitting across from you. Why don't you ask the man if he'll play us a song?" CJ didn't have to. The guitar player was already plucking strings and beginning to sing. "To feel the magic of the music," the blind man whispered, "I like to close my eyes." Nana closed hers, too. So did CJ and the spotted dog. And in the darkness, the rhythm lifted CJ out of the bus, out of the busy city. He saw sunset colors swirling over crashing waves, saw a family of hawks slicing through the sky, saw the old woman's butterflies dancing free in the light of the moon. CJ's chest grew full, and he was lost in the sound, and the sound gave him the feeling of magic. The song ended, and CJ opened his eyes. Everyone on the bus clapped, even the boys in the back. Nana glanced at the coin in CJ's palm. CJ dropped it in the man's hat. "Last stop on Market Street," Mr. Dennis called. CJ looked around as he stepped off the bus. Crumbling sidewalks and broken down doors, graffiti-tagged windows and boarded-up stores. He reached for Nana's hands. "How come it's always so dirty over here?" She smiled and pointed to the sky. "Sometimes when you're surrounded by dirt, CJ, you're a better witness for what's beautiful." CJ saw a perfect rainbow arcing over their soup kitchen. He wondered how his Nana always found beautiful when he never even thought to look. He looked all around them again, at the bus rounding the corner out of sight, and the broken street lamps still lit up bright, and the stray cat shadows moving across the wall. When he spotted their familiar faces in the window, he said, "I'm glad we came." He thought his Nana might laugh her deep laugh, but she didn't. She patted him on the head and told him, "Me too, CJ. Now, come on." Do you see where they are? See what they're doing there? Yeah, they're serving soup to the hungry people. Thank you for being such good listeners. We will sing you on your way.
Our spirituality operates in the material world, where we find comfort in heat in winter, benches on which to seat, and toilets that flush. Our spirituality operates in the sublime, where we find sermons that transform, music that soars, and community that glows. Our spirituality operates in generosity when all parts flow. Your offerings will now be gratefully received. And if you would like to donate via debit or credit card, there's a QR code on the back of the order of service. You can also go to our website, uusavannah.org, and click on the donate button, and mailed checks are also always welcome. Thank you for your generosity.
Sing for justice, join in.
We have several joys and sorrows today. We have a sorrow from Maureen and Martin. Our Uncle Ray passed away suddenly this week. He was such a sweet man and served others as a volunteer firefighter for 60 years. And we have a sorrow from Kathy. My mom is experiencing the ups and downs of caring for her husband with dementia, who has dementia. May she have strength and laughter in these days. We have a sorrow from Danielle Alexander. Please keep my friend Joe in your thoughts. He has been diagnosed with an aggressive cancer. And we have both a joy and a sorrow from Erin Urquila. Her sorrow is they have a sick son, and their joy is being in Savannah again. Let us hold all of our joys and sorrows, spoken and unspoken, in our hearts as we join together in the responsive reading found in your order of service. Sorrow is everywhere. Yet joy is reward. As we mourn together, so we celebrate together, and offer thanks, that we are not alone. So may it be now and in all the days to come.
Let us continue in a spirit of meditation. The words of meditation this morning come from the poet William Stafford. Sometime when the river is ice, ask me mistakes I have made. Ask me whether what I have done is my life. Others have come in their slow way into my thought, and some have tried to help or to hurt. Ask me what difference their strongest love or hate has made. I will listen to what you say. You and I can turn and look at the silent river and wait. We know the current is there, hidden, and there are comings and goings from miles away that hold the stillness exactly before us. What the river says, that is what I say. Amen. Our first reading this morning comes from the Quaker writer Parker Palmer. He begins by referencing the poem we just heard from William Stafford. Ask me whether what I have done is my life. For some, those words will be nonsense, nothing more than a poet's loose way with language and logic. Of course, what I have done is my life. But for others, and I am one, the poet's words will be precise, piercing, and disquieting. They remind me of moments when it is clear that the life I am living is not the same as the life that wants to live in me. In those moments, I sometimes catch a glimpse of my true life, a life hidden like a river beneath the ice. And in the spirit of the poet, I wonder, what am I meant to do? Who am I meant to be? I was in my early 30s when I began literally to wake up to questions about my vocation. By all appearances, things were going well, but the soul does not put much stock in appearances. Seeking a path more purposeful than accumulating wealth, holding power, winning competitions, or securing a career, I had started to understand that it is indeed possible to live a life other than one's own. Fearful that I was doing just that, but uncertain about the deeper, truer life I sensed hidden in me, uncertain whether it was real or trustworthy or within reach, I would snap awake in the middle of the night and stare for long hours at the ceiling. Then I ran across an old Quaker saying, "Let your life speak." I found those words encouraging, and I thought I understood what they meant. Let the highest truth and values guide you. Live up to those demanding standards in everything you do. Because I had heroes at the time who seemed to be doing exactly that, this exhortation had incarnate meaning for me. It meant living a life like that of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., or Rosa Parks, or Mahatma Gandhi, or Dorothy Day, a life of high purpose. And so I lined up the loftiest ideals I could find and set out to achieve them. The results were rarely admirable, often laughable, and sometimes grotesque. But always they were unreal, a distortion of my true self, as must be the case when one lives from the outside in, not the inside out. I had simply found a noble way to live a life that was not my own, a life spent imitating heroes instead of listening to my heart. Today, let your life speak means something else to me, a meaning faithful both to the ambiguity of those words and the complexity of my own experience. Before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen for what it intends to do with you. Before you tell your life what truth and values you have decided to live up to, let your life tell you what truths you embody, what values you represent. Vocation, the way I was seeking it in my 30s, became an act of will, a grim determination that one's life will go this way or that, whether it wants to or not. If the self is sin-ridden and will bow to truth and goodness only under duress, that approach to vocation makes sense. But if the self seeks not pathology, but holiness, as I believe it does, then the willful pursuit of vocation is an act of violence toward ourselves. Violence in the name of a vision that, however lofty, is forced on the self from without, rather than grown from within. Vocation does not come from willfulness. It comes from listening. I must listen to my life and try to understand what it is truly about, quite apart from what I would like it to be about, or my life will never represent anything real in the world, no matter how earnest my intentions. That insight is hidden in the word vocation itself, which is rooted in the Latin for voice. Vocation does not mean a goal that I pursue. It means a calling that I hear. Before I can tell my life what I want to do with it, I must listen to my life telling me who I am. I must listen for the truth and values at the heart of my own identity, not the standards by which I must live, but the standards by which I cannot help but live if I am living my life.
Our final reading today comes from Gloria Anzaldúa, Borderlands, from her book Borderlands, La Conciencia de la Mestiza / Towards a New Consciousness. But it is not enough to stand on the opposite riverbank, shouting questions, challenging patriarchal white conventions. A counterstance locks one into a duel of oppressor and oppressed, locked in mortal combat. Like the cop and the criminal, both are reduced to a common denominator of violence. The counterstance refutes the dominant culture's views and beliefs, and for this, it is proudly defiant. But all reaction is limited and dependent on what it is reacting against. So the counterstance is a step toward liberation from cultural domination, but it is not a way of life. At some point, we will have to leave the opposite bank, the split between the two combatants somehow healed so that we are on both shores at once, and at once see through serpent and eagle eyes. As a mestiza, I have no country. My homeland cast me out, yet all countries are mine because I am every woman's sister or potential lover. As a lesbian, I have no race. My own people disclaim me, but I am all races because there's the queer of me in all races. I am cultureless because as a feminist, I challenge the collective religious patriarchal beliefs, yet I am culture because I am participating in the creation of yet another culture, a new story to explain the world and our participation in it. A new value system with images and symbols that connect us to each other and to the planet. I am an act of needing, of uniting and joining that has not only produced a creature of darkness and a creature of lightness, but also a creature that questions the definitions of light and dark and gives them new meaning. We are the people who leap in the dark. We are the people on the knees of the gods. Will you please rise as you're willing and able to join us for hymn 1017, which is also our hymn of the month.
We are
In our most recent starting point class, someone asked me how it was I came to be a Unitarian Universalist minister. I gave my usual answer, that having been raised by a school teacher mom and a social worker dad, the chances that I would end up a helping professional were great. And that having also been raised in the Unitarian Universalist Church by those same parents who brought our family to church more Sundays than not, and who are active volunteers at church in a variety of roles, the chances that that profession would be Unitarian Universalist ministry were also great. I described the sermon that I'd heard that first started me thinking, I could do that. I said that ministry is a combination of lots of things I love: reading and writing, study, and working with people. I said that this life of ministry fits. Several years ago, I gave that same or a similar answer to another person who asked the question, adding that I considered other career paths, but somehow, from the age of 15 on, my life moved steadily in this direction. Oh, that questioner replied, you were called. Then he wistfully added, I wish God would tell me what to do. That long ago questioner made sure I understood that he was in earnest. He was someone who had no time or room in his life for religion. But feeling a bit lost and anchorless at the moment, unsure what to do with his life, he genuinely desired some ultimate, unquestionable authority to weigh in on the matter. He wanted God to tell him what to do. I don't think of it in those terms most of the time, that God told me to be a minister. I only know it was something it seemed I had no choice about once the idea came to me. In the words of Parker Palmer, I listened to what my life had to say, and what I heard was that the truths and values I can't help but live by, along with my natural talents and interests, shaped me for a life of ministry. With one exception, I don't actually know of anyone who has heard God or the universe or the spirit of life telling them clearly what to do, although I know lots of people who say they were called to their life's work. Now I'm going to commit a cardinal sin. I'm going to tell you about a children's story instead of showing you the pictures and reading it to you, because it's not at all seasonal. Stephen Krensky tells the story of how Santa got his job. According to Krensky, Santa took a most circuitous route to the familiar job we know he now holds. He was first fired from a job as a chimney sweep for being too neat. No one believed he'd really done the job because he didn't get dirty or leave a mess in the fireplaces. Next, Santa lost a job with the post office because of his habit of delivering the mail in the middle of the night when there was less traffic to contend with. Santa's next job at an all-night diner caused him to gain a lot of weight, what with all that tasting and sampling he did on the job, so he took a job at the zoo, hoping to get some exercise. Keeping track of the animals gave Santa a knack for knowing when they were asleep or awake, whether they were naughty or nice. But alas, he became too close to the reindeer, making the other animals jealous, and he lost the zoo job too. The reindeer left with him when he went, and they all joined the circus, where the reindeer began shooting Santa out of a cannon wearing a bright red costume. Santa loved flying through the air and shouted, "Ho, ho, ho," as he went. So the ringmaster fired Santa for not looking frightened enough. But now Santa's luck took a turn for the better. Some toy maker elves were at the circus and invited Santa and his reindeer home for supper. Their home was filled with toys they had made but couldn't be bothered to sell. Santa suggested giving the toys away and volunteered to deliver them himself. After a few more mishaps, Santa and the reindeer set out in the darkest part of winter when people most need their spirits lifted. They delivered all the toys in one night and have done so ever since. It may be fanciful and a bit extreme, but that's more like how most of us find our role in life. No voice from on high or out there telling us what to do. Just trial and error after trial and error, each experience teaching us one or two valuable, if unlikely, lessons or skills, until at last, if we're lucky and tenacious, we happen upon our vocation. The one person I knew who stated clearly and emphatically that God had told him what to do with his life was a minister from another denomination. This man insisted that he did not really want to be a minister, but God wanted him to be a minister, so that was that. I had more than one argument with this colleague about that concept of calling. I argued that God, being God, must have many ways of telling us things, and surely a sense of joyful desire is a clearer sign of a call than is a reluctant sense of obligation. My colleague would have nothing of such a free and liberal interpretation of God's ways. Somehow, God had told him what to do, and his own skills, talents, and desires didn't factor in at all. Finally, we had to give up the conversation. Our theological outlooks were so fundamentally different at core, we couldn't communicate. I didn't know it then, but I was arguing a Presbyterian writer and popular theologian Frederick Buechner's point of view. Today's sermon title comes from some of his writing. The place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. This theology says God, or the great mystery, or the force of life with a capital L, wants us to be glad, and that the needs of the world are so great and so varied that there is a place where our deep gladness and the world's deep hunger come together in a harmony of need and service. All we have to do in order to live into God's desire for us, or in other words, to take up our purpose in life, is discover that meeting place. Of course, that's the challenge. An Hasidic tale gets at the same point from a slightly different angle. It tells us that in his old age, Rabbi Zuzia said, "In the coming world, they will not ask me, 'Why were you not Moses?' They will ask me, 'Why were you not Zuzia?'" The point is, we are called to be the one we are, not to be someone else, even someone as revered as Moses. Ultimately, we are no good to the world or to ourselves if we are not fully and wholly ourselves. I once overheard someone comparing the relative importance of monks in a monastery with Mother Teresa. Monasteries have their place, he grudgingly admitted, but more lives are saved by those who are engaged with the world, he contended. From a pragmatic, results-oriented perspective through which we are mostly trained to see the world, there is a great deal of sense to his words. But not everybody is Mother Teresa. Not even every person of faith and goodwill is cut out for life among the destitute of Calcutta. Some are built for life in a monastery, a life of prayer or study or other contemplative work. Others are built for lives of direct service to the poor, the elderly, the young, the marginalized, the forgotten. And with rare exception, a person whose temperament suits them for one type of life would be a miserable failure in the other type of life. Miserable because they are denying their true calling. a failure, no matter how productive they might seem, because when heart and soul are not behind one's actions, that lack is always seen or felt in the results of the action, however subtly. The skills and talents and basic way of being in the world that make one an excellent monk or cloistered nun would not necessarily serve one well in other settings, such as the streets of a slum, or the offices of a social service agency, or the front lines of an environmental battle. Fortunately, though it is strange to use that word, the hunger of the world is vast and varied. There is need enough both for those who serve others directly and those who study and pray. As the poem suggests, ask whether what you have done is your life. If you can answer yes, chances are the world, and not just your life, is better off for it. What about you? What about us? Is what you have been doing your life? It's worthwhile to interrogate ourselves every now and then. Does my life need a course correction because the life I've been living isn't genuinely mine? Do I let my life speak? Before making decisions about career or how to spend my leisure time or what volunteer opportunities to undertake, do I listen to hear what my life intends for me to do with it? Am I serving the world not because I should or because good people do, not because of those to whom much is given, much will be received, but because I can't help doing so? Because my gladness is deep and rich and overflowing, and I have found just the hungry, thirsty spot in the world that needs such a gladness? In the next world, or at the brink of death, will we be asked, why were you not you? Or will we be spared that question when it is too late for a course correction? Such self-examination takes time. It certainly isn't as simple as God or a voice from on high telling us what to do. And it may take even more time once we have identified our particular gladness to find the matching hunger in the world. Like Santa, we may find and reject or be rejected by a dozen different paths before we find the one, but the rewards for such work are great. To live one's own life, to act out of gladness, not obligation, is a powerful means of combating depression, bitterness, and exhaustion. Life so lived renews one and serves the world at the same time. Church is one of the places to do the work of identifying our gladness and matching it with the world's hunger. Here we offer silence in which to listen deeply to our life. Here we share our stories with others and learn from their vocational journeys. Here we provide some avenues of access to the world's hunger for those whose gladness is caring for buildings and grounds, or working with our children and youth, or being leaders in the community, or working toward anti-racism or healing the planet, combating injustice and inequity in Savannah. Here we are exposed to challenging, liberating ideas from voices we're not accustomed to hearing, such as the reading Jane shared with us this morning. Such an important truth that never moving beyond defiance keeps us forever tied to whatever it is we stand in opposition to, while moving toward occupying both shores frees us to create, to build, and to heal. A deeper, more subtle take on the relationship between hunger and gladness, one I'll be pondering for some time to come. Finally, here at church, at our best, we hold up the importance of listening to one's life and celebrate with each other as we become more and more skilled at living lives we are called to live. Speaking of churches, I believe that churches, like individuals, are called to match their gladness with the world's hunger. Some churches live most authentically in service to children and youth. Others find their deep gladness in music, matching it with the world's need for harmony and beauty. Still other churches find their calling in social justice work of one kind or another, or in robust interfaith partnerships. Churches which will never be asked, "Why were you not yourself?" listen to the collective voice of the congregation telling them who they are, what their truths and values are, what standards they can't help but live by, and then shape their ministries, their worship, and their budgets around the answers they hear. As we move closer to this congregation voting on whether or not to call me as your next settled minister, I am asked from time to time about my vision for the church. It is an appropriate and important question. The church is abuzz with spirit these days. Each week, visitors are becoming established participants in church life. Each week, folks are reestablishing attendance and volunteer patterns disrupted by the pandemic shutdown and ministerial transitions. This all feels vibrantly generative, yet there is uncertainty. Everything has changed in perceptible and imperceptible ways since 2020. The pandemic shutdown, the departure of David Mesner, the interim ministry of Susan Carlson, the return to in-person worship and programming. At the current moment, I am the visible embodiment of all that feels like it is shifting still. And you want to know if this church will still be your church, if this nearly 2-year-long job interview ends with me settling in here long term. I get that. I have been in communities that have undergone changes that brought new life and creative energy, and I too worried about losing what my community had been before all the change. I get that you want to hear my vision for this beloved church. And I'm pretty convinced that a vision born in and emerging from my heart and mind would ultimately fit the Unitarian Universalist Church of Savannah as poorly and inauthentically as the life built on nothing more than a fervent imitation of Dorothy Day, Gandhi, Rosa Parks, and the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. fit Parker Palmer. It is absolutely the role of the minister to keep the vision of the church, to interpret the nuances and implications of the vision, to remind the congregation of the vision, to guide and support lay leaders and staff in keeping the programs and policies of the church centered on the vision. But the church's vision most properly germinates within and emerges from the heart and mind of the congregation. If I were to answer the question with a fully formed, specific, and distinct vision of what UUCS would be 5 years from now, what programs it should offer, how the budget and staff time should be divided between religious education and the congregation's 4 social justice ministries and music, and what I think the demographics of the congregation should be, then you might well wonder if this church would still be your church if you call me. Be assured, however, I believe at my core that should my deep gladness at listening to individual and congregational stories, recognizing the patterns and longings and possibilities those stories reveal, and implementing ministries out of those patterns and longings and possibilities, should my gladness be invited to meet the deep hunger this congregation has to become clear about what it is and could be moving forward from 2024? Should my gladness be invited to meet your hunger, what would unfold over the coming years would indeed be this congregation's life, its essence at once deeply familiar and shimmering with unexpected potential. In the coming world, they will not ask me, why were you not Moses? They will ask me, why were you not Zuzia? With grace and hard work and willingness to listen deeply for whatever time we have together, may each of us alone and all of us together avoid the fate of being asked such a painfully poignant question. Amen. Will you please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, verses 4 and 5 of number 298, Wake Now My Senses. We have come to the end of our service, but not our calling in the world. May we close our time together with the humble reminder that justice and equity are our spiritual practice to embrace. Each day, every day, we are blessed to be the embodiment of what is possible when justice and equity ground us in all that we do. May we go forth, meeting hunger with gladness, until we are together again. Amen.